Welcome to the Zipper Placket video. Here I have my two zipper plackets and I'm going to turn them over so that they are wrong side facing up. And I'm going to make some marks that are 1 inch away from each of the ends. So I'm just going to put them side by side and mark 1 inch away from that end. And then turn both of them over and do the same thing on the other end. And then next I'm going to add a line of double-sided tape to the very end of both of the zipper plackets. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Okay, both ends of your zipper placket should now look like this, with the double-sided tape and the marking 1 inch away from the edge. And I'm just going to remove the paper from the tape and fold the end in to meet that line. And do so on all ends. All right, each of the ends of my zipper plackets have been folded in and stuck down with the double-sided tape. And the zipper plackets should now be about 20 inches long because we have technically taken 1 inch off of each of the ends. So now I'm going to flip these over so they're right side up on my table, and I'm going to measure 9 3/4 of an inch away from the ends of the plackets. So 9 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to make sure that these are lined up. 9 3/4, and I'm just going to put a small little mark on the right side of both plackets, and I'll show you that here. I just marked right here on both plackets. One thing I do want to point out is that this mark is not the halfway point between the two ends. So make sure that you remember which side is 9 3/4 of an inch, because the other side will be 10 1/4 of an inch, and you want to work with the 9 3/4 of an inch side of the placket. Next, I have my 14-inch zipper, and I'm going to flame the ends so that they don't fray while I'm working with them. And we're going to turn the ends of the zipper at a 90-degree angle on either side. So what I'm going to do here is actually separate the zipper only by about 1 inch or so. And my technique for doing this is kind of personalized to how I like to do it. You can definitely find your own best way of doing it. But what I do is I like to fold the zipper back on itself like this, and then pinch the edge, and then bring that zipper back to the front. So I kind of do it in one sort of smooth movement, and then that becomes a right angle, and the fold of the tape is right up against the teeth of the zipper. I like to be pretty precise, just in the sense that the edge of the zipper is all lined up with itself. And this is the only time in all of my bag making that I actually use a pin. And so I am going to just pin that so that I can put it under my needle and kind of baste that in place. And I just sew right over the pin carefully so that my sewing machine needle doesn't hit the pin. But I just baste right over that side, somewhat close to the edge, so that these stitches will be hidden when we sew the zipper to the placket. And then I remove the pin, and that stays at a right angle. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. All right, both edges of my zipper have now been turned at a 90-degree angle, and I am now going to bring back one of my plackets. And I'm going to make sure that I know which side is the 9 3/4 inch side, and that's this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my zipper right sides together with the placket, and I'm going to align the right angle of the zipper with the mark that I made. And I'm going to clip this in place. all the way down to the end of the placket. So you can see here the zipper has been clipped to the placket, right sides together, and the edge of the zipper is up against the edge of the placket. And the right angle of the zipper is right at my 9 3/4 inch mark here. And I'm gonna baste this zipper to the placket, close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Now, once I get to the end of the zipper placket, I'm gonna stop before I stitch off the end of the zipper placket. So if I turn this over, you can see I stopped my stitching before I went off the end of the placket. Because you will be able to, even though these basting stitches will be hidden after you sew the placket, if you sew off the end of the placket, you will see those stitches. Next, I'm going to take the free end of the placket and I'm going to fold it back on itself. And if you turn this over, you can see where you will be able to line up the two ends, the two folded ends of the placket. So align those with each other and clip that edge in place. You've basted this edge of the zipper. So not this edge because it's not basted. You want to do this edge. So clip these together, making sure everything is straight and aligned. So there you see our placket is clipped. It's sort of a zipper sandwich with the placket on the outside and the zipper on the inside. And we're going to stitch this clipped edge at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Go over the teeth of the zipper all the way to the end of the placket and then back stitch. So again, my stitching did not go past the end of the placket, and we are going to trim a little bit of the seam allowance here. I like to trim right above the zipper. I like to trim that corner off right there. So you can see there, right above the zipper, that corner, and then you can come down here and trim off this edge here. Now, this is the part of the pattern where it's very important to use a thinner vinyl because this part here gets a little bit thick. So I like to trim off just the folded portion of the placket right at that seam allowance there. And when I turn it over and trim this side, I'm actually, since I have basting stitches here, I'm actually going to pull those basting stitches out just a little bit. I'm going to pull them just until I'm above that fold. And I pulled the basting stitches, not our 1/4 of an inch seam allowance that we just made, just the basting stitches I pulled out. And I only did that so that I can get my scissors under here and trim this away. That takes care of some of the bulk here. And now we're going to turn the placket right side out. And be careful here not to separate your zipper because you're going to need your zipper to stay together so that you can align the other side of the zipper placket. And I like to line up the end right here first, and I'm going to clip these together. So the zipper placket's now wrong sides together, and I'm just going to kind of work it so that the raw edges of the placket are aligned and then start clipping them. I'm going to tug on the zipper a little bit so that the seam opens up and clip those plackets together. Now you might want to kind of stick something in here at the top to kind of poke out that corner a little bit, but mine looks good. And clip that together as well. There we go. All right, so our placket is completely clipped together, and we are now going to top stitch around all edges. And I like to baste stitch up this side and then top stitch around the other side. So I like to start here so that you can't see where I start and stop because this will be stitched into the liner of the bag. So you won't be able to see where I'm starting and stopping my stitches. So I'm stitching the raw edges first. I'm just going to baste up this side. So I've turned my stitch length up all the way so that I'm just basting right here. And my raw edges of the placket are aligned still. And then once I get to this top corner, I'm going to stop with my needle down. I'm going to turn my stitch length back down. I'm using a stitch length of 4 for top stitching. Pivot and then start top stitching across the top of the placket. And when I get to this edge and turn, I'm now going to be top stitching down the zipper. And what I want to do is kind of hold on to this edge of the zipper placket with this hand and then sort of pull the zipper so that it's kind of pulled apart. And that will open up the seam as much as possible. And then you can top stitch down the zipper with that seam being kind of pulled apart. Okay, so I like to go slow on this part and just pull the zipper apart from the placket, go a little bit farther, and then pull again. Okay, pull a little bit more, continue top stitching, and then pull more and continue top stitching. Okay, down at this corner, I'm gonna pivot again and top stitch along the bottom of the placket. And then I'm just gonna back stitch really well here. So here is my completely top stitched placket on this one side of the zipper placket. Next, we are going to repeat those steps with the second placket. So I'm gonna grab my placket here and I'm gonna make sure that I know, again, which side of the placket is my 9 3/4 inch side, and it's this side here. So next I'm going to lay my zipper down, and this time it'll be right side up. So wrong side of the zipper will be against the right side of the zipper placket. I'm gonna line up that right angled zipper with that 9 3/4 inch mark. And I'm going to place one clip. The reason why I'm placing only one clip is because here it is very important that this edge of the placket aligns with this edge of the second placket. So it's more important that this edge is aligned than this edge of the zipper is aligned with your mark. Because if the bottom of this placket is aligned with the bottom of this other placket, then this side will be aligned as well. So I'm just going to line that up first, and then I'm going to continue clipping down the entire zipper. Okay, and so I'm going to baste that zipper to the placket. And I'm going to stop before I stitch off the placket. So I have stopped my stitches before I stitched off the end of the placket. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I take the end of the placket and I fold it back on itself. And I'm going to align the folded edges with each other and clip these in place. Okay, now we're going to sew this clipped edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And again, I'm going to stop my stitching before I stitch off the end of the placket. And I'm going to back stitch. And then you have your second placket attached. So we are going to clip the corner here. And I'm going to clip off this edge here. And again, on this side, I have my basting stitches, so I'm going to remove those just at the very end of the placket. And I'm just removing the basting stitches, not the stitches we just made, which attached the zipper to the placket, just so I can get my scissors underneath and trim off. I'm not going to trim the zipper at all. Careful not to trim the zipper. There we go. So that got rid of some bulk. And I'm going to turn this right side out. And clip just the same way that we did before. So this placket is clipped and ready to be top stitched, but one thing that I didn't show on this placket is a way that you can actually kind of squeeze bulk out of this area. This one corner right here is the bulkiest part of the whole pattern. And we did trim out a lot of that bulk when we were trimming our seam allowance. But an extra step that you can take is just to squeeze that bulk with a pair of pliers. And I use this set of pliers right here, and I make sure that the plate of my pliers is not serrated, because sometimes pliers have those little teeth, and these ones are smooth and flat, so it's not going to mark up my vinyl. And I used these on a test piece of vinyl to make sure that they wouldn't mark up my vinyl. So now I use them all the time because I know that they are safe. But I just squeeze that corner to get that bulk to kind of flatten out and distribute over a larger area so that it's smoother to top stitch this corner. And now I'm going to start by basting down the raw edge, and then I'm going to top stitch around all other sides of the placket. Okay, here is our completed zipper placket attached to our zipper and ready to go into the liner.